My name is Amber Preston, and I'm 34 years old. I live in Willow Creek, a charming town with tree-lined streets and cozy coffee shops. I work as a freelance interior designer from home, which is perfect for me because it lets me be close to my 10-year-old son, Dylan. My husband, Nathan, is a software engineer at a local tech firm. Together, we've built a life centered on warmth, love, and tradition. On this peaceful Sunday morning, sunlight filtered gently through the large windows of our two-story home, and the aroma of cinnamon pancakes filled the air. Dylan was upstairs, probably still building one of his Lego masterpieces, while Nathan had gone out to run errands. The day promised calm and comfort, just the way I liked it. I had just finished arranging some design samples for a client when the doorbell rang, followed by loud, frantic knocking. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly put down the fabric swatches and made my way to the door. As soon as I opened it, the peaceful atmosphere shattered. Standing on the porch was Caitlin, my sister-in-law. Her brown hair was a mess, her eyes red and puffy, as if she'd been crying for hours. In her hand, she clutched a small, empty jewelry box. "You need to control your son," she yelled before I could even say hello. Confused and taken aback, I blinked. "Caitlin, what's going on?" "He stole Ashley's gold necklace." Her voice was high-pitched, filled with raw anger. Behind her, Ashley, her 9-year-old daughter, stood silently, looking frightened and hesitant. "Come inside," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing in my chest. I led them into the living room, but Caitlin's anger showed no signs of calming. My mind raced, trying to process what she had just said. Dylan would never steal anything, especially not from Ashley. But before I could speak, I heard footsteps descending the stairs. Dylan appeared at the bottom of the staircase, his face a mix of confusion and worry. "Mom, what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "Caitlin thinks you took Ashley's necklace," I said softly, my eyes searching his for any sign of guilt. His eyes widened. "I didn't take anything." His voice was firm but frightened. But Caitlin wouldn't have it. "Don't lie to me," she yelled, stepping closer. "Ashley told me you were the last person in her room. Where is the necklace?" Dylan looked at me, tears forming in his eyes. "Mom, I swear I didn't do it." Before I could stop her, Caitlin raised her hand and slapped him across the face. The sound of the slap echoed through the room as Dylan stumbled backward, clutching his cheek. "How could you?" I gasped, rushing to Dylan and pulling him into my arms. His sobs were muffled against my shoulder, and anger surged through me like wildfire. I looked up at Caitlin, my voice trembling but firm. "Get out of my house." Caitlin didn't move. She stood there, her chest heaving, eyes blazing with anger. "I'm not leaving until we sort this out. My daughter's necklace is missing, and your son is the only one who could have taken it." I hugged Dylan tighter as he sobbed into my shoulder, his little hands gripping my sweater. My heart ached for him. I knew he wasn't lying. I could see it in his eyes, the same way any mother knows when her child is telling the truth. "Caitlin, you have no proof," I said firmly. "Accusing him without evidence and hitting him like that is unacceptable." Ashley stood in the corner of the room, her small frame shaking as she clung to her backpack. She looked down, not meeting anyone's gaze, as if she wanted to disappear. Something about her posture tugged at my instincts. But I couldn't focus on that right now. Dylan needed me. "Proof?" "The proof is that Ashley saw him in her room, and now the necklace is gone." Caitlin's voice was rising again, but before she could say more, the front door opened. Nathan walked in, holding a bag of groceries. His eyes immediately darted to the scene in front of him, Caitlin shouting, Dylan crying in my arms, and Ashley cowering in the corner. "What's going on?" His voice was calm but carried a protective undertone. He set the bag down and quickly came over to us, placing a hand on Dylan's shoulder. Caitlin wasted no time launching into her story. "Your son stole Ashley's gold necklace. I caught him in her room, and now it's missing." Nathan's expression hardened. He knelt down beside Dylan, gently moving his hand away from his cheek to see the red mark left by the slap. His jaw tightened. "Dylan," Nathan said softly, "tell me the truth, son. Did you take the necklace?" Dylan sniffled, his voice cracking as he spoke. No, Dad. I didn't take it. I swear. Nathan nodded, believing him immediately. He stood up and faced Caitlin. That's enough. You had no right to hit him. You think I'm making this up? Caitlin snapped, tears of frustration brimming in her eyes. He's lying. I'm not leaving until you admit what he did. Ashley shifted uncomfortably, her fingers fidgeting with the straps of her backpack. She still hadn't spoken a word, and her silence spoke volumes to me. Something wasn't right. Let's calm down and figure this out, Nathan suggested, though his tone left no room for argument. Caitlin, maybe we should sit and… I'm not sitting anywhere until we find the necklace, Caitlin interrupted, pacing back and forth. I want him to apologize and return it. I had heard enough. Standing up, I took a deep breath. Dylan has nothing to apologize for. We'll find the necklace, but not like this. You can't accuse a child and slap him without proof. You need to leave, Caitlin. Caitlin opened her mouth to argue, but before she could say anything, Ashley's small voice broke the tension. Mom, wait, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. All eyes turned to her. She hesitated, then looked directly at me, her eyes wide and pleading. I need to tell you something, Ashley said, her voice trembling. The room fell silent, except for the sound of Dylan's soft sniffles. Ashley shifted from one foot to the other, avoiding her mother's gaze. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched her, knowing instinctively that she was about to say something important. Ashley? I said gently, kneeling down, so I was eye level with her. What is it, sweetheart? You can tell us. She glanced at Caitlin, whose face was now a mix of confusion and frustration. After a long pause, Ashley took a deep breath and blurted out, Dylan didn't take the necklace. Caitlin's eyes widened. What are you talking about, Ashley? You said. Ashley shook her head quickly, her golden hair falling into her face. I lied, Mom. The weight of her confession hit the room like a crashing wave. Nathan's eyebrows furrowed, and I could feel Dylan's grip on my hand tighten as he processed what he had just heard. You lied. Caitlin's voice cracked, and she took a step closer to her daughter. Why would you do that? Ashley sniffled, tears rolling down her cheeks. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I didn't know what to do. Caitlin knelt in front of Ashley, gripping her shoulders. What do you mean? Where is the necklace? Ashley hesitated, then unzipped her backpack and pulled out the small gold necklace, its delicate chain shimmering faintly in the light. She held it out, her hands shaking. I didn't want to wear it anymore, she sobbed. You're always posting pictures of me on social media, showing off everything I have, making me look perfect. I hate it. The girls at school tease me because of it. They call me the show-off princess. I didn't know how to tell you, so I hid the necklace and blamed Dylan. Caitlin's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing as if she were struggling to find the right words. The truth hung in the air, heavy and raw. I watched as the realization washed over her. The pressure she had unknowingly placed on her daughter had finally broken her. Nathan spoke up first, his voice calm but firm. Ashley, you should have told us instead of blaming Dylan. But you're brave for telling the truth now. Ashley wiped her tears and looked at Dylan. I'm sorry, Dylan. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Dylan hesitated, then nodded slowly. It's okay, he whispered, though I could see the hurt in his eyes. But why did you say it was me? I panicked, Ashley admitted. I knew you were in my room yesterday, so it was easy to blame you. I'm really, really sorry. I hugged Dylan tighter, silently promising him that we'd get through this. Caitlin, however, was still frozen in place, her gaze locked on her daughter. Finally, she spoke. Is this true, Ashley? The bullying, the teasing, you could have told me. Ashley sobbed harder. I tried, Mom. But you're always so busy making everything perfect. I didn't think you'd listen. Caitlin's eyes filled with tears as she pulled her daughter into a hug. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I didn't mean to make you feel this way. They cried together for a few moments, and I felt my own eyes well up. But then I remembered the slap, the accusation, the pain Caitlin had caused my son. I cleared my throat. Caitlin, I said, my voice steady, there's still something you need to do. She looked up at me, her face red and tear-streaked.
What?
You need to apologize to Dylan. You hit him without proof, and that's not okay. Caitlin's face crumpled with guilt. She stood up, walked over to Dylan, and knelt down so she was at eye level with him. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Dylan, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have hit you or accused you without knowing the truth. Can you ever forgive me? Dylan sniffled and wiped his eyes. He hesitated, then nodded. Okay, he whispered. But don't do it again. Caitlin let out a shaky laugh, a mixture of relief and regret. I won't, she promised. Nathan placed a hand on Dylan's shoulder and gave me a small, reassuring nod. We had survived the worst of it, but I knew this wasn't the end. There was still healing to be done, especially for Ashley. I took a deep breath and said, let's sit down and talk about how we can help Ashley. She's been through a lot, and this isn't something that will go away overnight. Caitlin nodded, holding her daughter's hand tightly. You're right. I'll get her into counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. And not just for her, I added. For yourself too. The pressure you're putting on yourself to be perfect, it's hurting everyone, including you. Caitlin looked down, nodding slowly as the truth sank in. Let's figure it out together, I said softly. That's what family is for. As we sat together in the living room, I felt the weight in my chest begin to lift. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a start. Later that afternoon, after Caitlin and Ashley left, the house was eerily quiet. Dylan was curled up on the couch, watching cartoons, but his usual vibrant energy was noticeably dim. I sat beside him, stroking his hair gently as he leaned into me. Are you okay, sweetheart? I asked softly. He nodded but didn't speak. I could see the turmoil swirling behind his eyes. The betrayal from someone he trusted had shaken him deeply, and the red mark on his cheek, though fading, was a painful reminder of the day's events. Nathan walked in and sat down on Dylan's other side. Dylan, he said gently, I know today was really hard, but I want you to know how proud I am of you for staying calm and telling the truth. Dylan looked up at him. But why didn't Aunt Caitlin believe me, Dad? Why would Ashley lie about me? Nathan exhaled, his hand resting on Dylan's back. Sometimes people make mistakes when they're scared. Ashley wasn't trying to hurt you. She was just afraid and didn't know what to do. But you did the right thing by staying honest. I added, and that's why things worked out. Ashley admitted the truth, and Aunt Caitlin apologized. It wasn't fair to you, but you handled it bravely. Dylan wiped his nose with the sleeve of his shirt and gave us a small nod. I still feel sad. That's okay, I said, pulling him closer. You don't have to feel better right away. Just know that we're here, and we'll get through this as a family. A small smile formed on his lips. Thanks, Mom. The next day, I received a text message from Caitlin. Thank you for everything. I'm booking a counseling session for Ashley today. I'm sorry again for what happened, and I hope we can move past this. I showed the message to Nathan, who nodded in approval. That's a good step, he said. She's finally taking responsibility. By noon, Caitlin showed up at the house again, this time with Ashley. Dylan was playing outside in the backyard, and when he saw them approaching, he hesitated for a moment before slowly walking over. Ashley clutched her backpack, fidgeting nervously. Hi, Dylan, she said softly. Hi, he replied, his voice cautious. Ashley's lower lip trembled as she reached into her backpack and pulled out something wrapped in tissue paper. She handed it to him, her hands shaking. I got this for you. It's to say I'm sorry. Dylan unwrapped the tissue to find a small Lego set inside, a miniature spaceship model. His eyes lit up for a brief second before he glanced back at Ashley. You didn't have to, he said quietly. I wanted to, she insisted. I really am sorry, Dylan. I shouldn't have blamed you. Dylan looked down at the Lego set, then back at Ashley. Finally, he nodded. Thanks. Do you want to help me build it? Ashley's face broke into a hopeful smile. Really? Yeah, he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Let's build it. As they sat down on the grass and began working on the Lego set together, I watched from the kitchen window, my heart swelling with relief. They were kids, resilient and forgiving in ways that adults sometimes struggled to be. Nathan wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Looks like things are getting back to normal," he said. "Almost," I replied. "But I think Caitlin still has a long way to go." A week later, Caitlin called me to say she had met with a counselor and was already seeing positive changes in Ashley. "It's not just for Ashley," she admitted. "I'm working on myself too." I didn't realize how much I was hiding behind that perfect image until it all fell apart. "I'm proud of you," I told her sincerely. "It's not easy to admit when you're wrong and take steps to change. And I'm grateful to you for helping me see that," she replied. "I've also deleted a lot of old posts on social media and reduced my time online. It feels freeing, honestly." We made plans to have a family dinner that weekend, a chance to rebuild the trust and connection that had been shaken. When the day arrived, Caitlin showed up with a homemade dessert instead of her usual picture-perfect, store-bought cake. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. As we gathered around the dinner table, the room was filled with warmth and laughter. Dylan and Ashley sat side by side, giggling as they whispered about their next Lego project. Caitlin, Nathan, and I exchanged knowing smiles. The past wasn't forgotten, but it no longer held us hostage. Months passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. Caitlin continued attending counseling, and Ashley flourished at school. Her confidence grew as she explored new interests, free from the pressure of perfection. As for our family, Dylan's relationship with Caitlin healed over time. He no longer flinched at her presence, and eventually, the incident became just a distant memory, one that served as a reminder of how quickly things could spiral, but also how love and forgiveness could bring healing. One evening, as I sat on the porch watching Dylan play in the yard, Nathan joined me, handing me a cup of tea. "You know," he said, "it's amazing how much can change when people are willing to grow." I smiled, sipping the warm tea.
"Yeah,
"I'm just glad we didn't let this break us." He nodded. "We're stronger for it." And as the sun set over our peaceful home in Willow Creek, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Life wasn't perfect, but it didn't need to be. As long as we had each other, we could face whatever challenges came our way, just like we always had. Thank you so much for joining me on this emotional journey filled with family, forgiveness, and new beginnings. If you enjoyed this story and found it inspiring or relatable, please take a moment to like the video. Your support means the world to me. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. What part of the story touched you the most? Did Caitlin's transformation resonate with you? Or do you have your own family experiences to share? Let me know. I read all your comments and truly appreciate every bit of feedback. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more heartwarming, suspenseful, and thought-provoking stories like this one. By subscribing, you become a part of our growing community, and trust me, you won't want to miss the next story. Finally, if you know someone who could benefit from hearing a story about family and reconciliation, feel free to share this video with them. Let's spread messages of hope, growth, and understanding together. Thank you again for being here, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.